Within the next few hours at the time of recording, the GOP are about to hold their second round of interviews for the vice presidential position in 2024. And frankly, I bounced around the idea of maybe covering, maybe streaming the debates. But at the end of the day, man, I've seen some stories that I would much rather cover and I think are far more pressing to the American people and hell, to the global individual, because I think that talking about this stuff is far more pressing than hearing a bunch of boomer cons, just discuss what they're going to do with taxpayer dollars and how expeditiously they're going to ship them off to the middle of Europe. I think that talking about a company who betrayed their audience, betrayed their base, and how businesses can learn from this situation, and then also the proper way to deal with these situations. I think that this is something that it has far more reach, is far more impactful, and has a hell of a lot less Israel and Ukraine simping. So why don't we just go with that? So Bud Light, now is the time, guys. Now is the time to go back and buy that Bud Light InBev stock, because the Bud Light Blues, they're old news right now, guys. It's all over. It's all done. An analyst has said so, and it's not like we haven't heard this shit before. Oh my lord. Amid the controversy in the United States that entailed one of the most famous beer companies in the world and the resulting declining stock prices, analysts predict that things should be on the lookup for Anheuser Busch, the parent company of Bud Light, suggesting that this might be the time to invest. But as you can see right there, this article, it's a couple of weeks old, right? And it also coincidentally came out like a week after, Bill Gates stuck. I don't even know if that's a proper word, but Bill Gates decided to buy up about $100 million worth of stock. So yeah, I'm sure it's just coincidental that you'd have an analyst from TD Bank come out and say that, because Bill Gates has a lot of faith in the stock, that's why everybody else should. That's why if you go with some of the more recent news in this, you realize that now is not in fact the time to buy. Now, in fact, might end up being the aftershock. We all felt, I'm going to use an earthquake reference on this one, but we all know that everything kind of went down in May, June, July, a little bit into August, but it was mostly done and dusted then. Their collapse was complete. Every side of the political aisle, everybody that is on any kind of spectrum was taking a look at Bud Light and assessing them as the proper failure that they actually were. But now we're starting to see the aftermath. Talked about this very recently with them potentially losing. Well, it's not so much potentially, it's just simply a matter of time of them losing the shelf space that would be required for them to have this big, gigantic rebound. What we're seeing right now is probably about as good as it's going to get once those planograms start to be implemented in the very near future, when everybody starts to put in their new holiday stock. It's not going to end up looking good for them in the long term, but we need to assess the damages before we can start to project how much longer this is going to continue to go on for. Here's how much Bud Light stock. Well, it's Anheuser Busch. It's a little bit more than just simply Bud Light, but it was the driver as the best-selling beer in America, but not any longer. Is down in 2023. 2023 was not an easy year for Anheuser Busch. InBev, Bud Light's parent company, filled with boycotts, massive stock price drops, price corrections in June, and then just right back down that slide. So that's kind of like the big nice water slides in any park that you've been to, where there's the initial big drop, and then you've got the little plateau for a second, just to give you a little bit of hope before it's just a 90-degree drop right down into the pool. And consistently, trading in the current's lower range. You don't say. In the last month, Bud stocks were changing hands in a tight range between 55.08 and 58.28. So it's just bouncing around. Even though it started the year, I think 60 some odd dollars. Yeah, not great. Which support zone has been tested and failed to hold, sending Anheuser-Busch's prices as low as $54.50 per share on September 26th. And spoilers, we got some updated shit, and kind of why I'm talking about this, as opposed to I don't know what else is going on right now. Trump's talking to the auto workers. Blue cities are getting exactly what they voted for, with a whole bunch of riots going on. Like, okay, cool. Why not, again, let people just bask in the failure of their own voting decisions, okay? Anyways, interestingly, Bud Light stock prices at the time of publication are inside a larger time frame price range, nearing the yearly lows of $52.93. Yep, that was as of yesterday, but of course, we got some even newer updates, but it was the time to buy a couple of weeks ago, right, guys? Right? When it was higher higher than it was right now. Good advice you have over there at TD Ameritrade, which could act as price support to avoid further losses of Bud Light's investors. This would be an important step for Anheuser Busch InBev to regain the stock market's trust after registering an 8.62 loss since the New York Stock Exchange yearly opening on January 3rd, 2023. Yep, sucks to suck, I guess. Is that for? Yeah, that's the entire year so far. Where they ended up, $67.09, right? Like that was their yearly high, with their yearly lows right at the end of May, and now, bruh, they're on their way back down. Like, what the fuck happened? It looks like that big tie-up, that big partnership with NFL, well, it's working about as well as Taylor Swift's dating history. Not great, guys. Notably, even on a 13-day green scale of the last 30 days, 43%, recent price action and retail's negative sentiments are not preventing a positive forecast for Wall Street experts. 18 out of 29 analysts are currently recommending strong buy ratings for Budweiser. You idiots. 2 are saying buy, 7 are saying hold. Yeah, okay, that hold is doing a hell of a lot of heavy lifting there. That is the best strategy, and 2 would go with a strong sell. Yeah. So the 2 that are saying buy and then the 2 that are a strong sell are kind of a wash. But only 7 of 29 analysts can read the room. Wow, that's a good thing. That's a good thing that these stock analysts have never been wrong and they continue to run with. Now's the time to buy, guys, even though they've been running back those stories since as early as I seen them in July. Which, if you could take a look, just go ahead and start buying when everything is, right in their valleys right now. Oh, they'll come around. See, we look like geniuses until it all just continues to fall off a cliff. But this is eventually, right? Like, they're just prognosticating about the future of the company. Obviously, that's what the stock market is, betting on the horse to see how well it'll end up finish, how well it'll run the race, right? Like, that's just a layman's interpretation of the stock market. But like I stated a little bit earlier, the shelf space, what's going to end up happening there? We don't know anything specific about that. Are there any stores that are going to end up dropping Bud Light but keeping other products as well? It's going to be a little bit tough to see, and ultimately something that we're not going to know for a while, or maybe we can kind of read between the lines given the fact that September hasn't really been a good month. In fact, it's probably the worst that they've had since the beginning of this stuff. And well, that's kind of compounded by the fact that you got breweries closing, my guys. And like I said, it's dropping $53.38 as of today. It's not good. It's really not good at all, guys. But Bud Light Brewer makes a run for the border. It's funny, like the border's busy enough. Why just compound that? But Mexican beer is having its moment. The United States, probably for reasons that Biden seems to be indifferent about. But don't forget its potential elsewhere, including Mexico itself. Why? It's emptying out at a rapid rate. That's one of the key messages hammered home by the global beer giant Anheuser Busch InBev at an investor event this week. Having been hit hard this year by Bud Light controversy, they chose to host an event in Mexico City. To just try to reframe their failure in the United States that, hey, you know what? We could go ahead. We could move some of the breweries that we have in the United States and we can become a more global brand. You know what that used to be called? It used to be called losing manufacturing jobs. But they'll go ahead and spin that as a good thing because, there's just more call for international brands that are out there, and it's so great. The company, which accounts for around 1 in 4 beers sold worldwide, used Mexico as a showcase for its global strategy and footprint. When AB InBev acquired Mexico's Grupo Modelo in 2013, U.S. antitrust authorities forced it to sell the rights to the company's brands, including Corona, Modelo, and Pacifico, in the United States market to Constellation Brands. Since then, Modelo Especial has grown to become the top-selling beer in the United States. But, and this is, yes, a big caveat as to why they're going, oh, shucks, we ended up losing out to Modelo. Heaven forbid, we don't ever take back. We love competition. I think that's total ass cancer that they had to sell off the rights anyways because, well, that's just more government intervention. That's another topic for another time, but AB InBev retains the rights to those brands elsewhere in the world. Yeah, exactly. That's why they don't really care all that much about taking back the crown from Modelo because, the United States, it's one thing, but around the world, we own the rights to everything, so get fucked. The presentation on Tuesday and Wednesday, AB InBev executives divided global markets up into 4 broad categories: developing markets such as the United States and Europe. Developed markets. I was going to say developing is a little weird, but Those would be Brazil and Mexico, emerging markets like many in Africa, and finally China, which are like, I don't know, because from some reports it's either going to collapse in the next 10 years or is just going to be the dominant global superpower in the next 10 years. Don't know for sure how to characterize it, but we'll watch with eager anticipation as to how it ultimately ends up going. Developing markets stood out as the biggest opportunity. Yeah, of course, you can go in there like the Clinton Foundation and build it up in your own image, which, yeah, all of these developing and emerging nations, well, not the emerging markets, but yes, the developing markets, because they got their categories that are right there. You can go in there and get everybody who's on the come up, just hooked on your cheap booze. Fantastic stuff. You guys are doing the Lord's work. Not only are they large and growing, they are also very profitable with the highest margins on the basis of earnings before interest, taxes, depreciation, and amortization, the company said. Yes, because of the lessened government restrictions that are out there. Totally makes sense. In an interview, Chief Financial Officer Fernando Tenenbaum, that is a strange Lenny Kravitz genealogical history that guy's got right there, said the strong margin profile is partly because these countries already have a large at-scale beer markets, and that at the same time experiencing economic growth with a room for beer premiumization. Okay, as consumers get wealthier, right? Using returnable glass bottles in these markets also saves on packaging costs, and they are reused dozens of times. Oh, okay, like I was saying before, with the lessened government interference and the lessened amount of red tape, reusing glass bottles, I understand that that's profitable, but there's a better way that you can phrase that where you're not being so fucking cheap. In Mexico alone, the beer market has grown 5% a year between 2017 and 2022, and AB InBev says that its sales have exceeded this growth rate without providing any examples, making the country the single biggest growth distributor in the company's top and bottom lines. What is more, the company considers Corona one of its top global brands. Oh my god, Corona's a global brand? No! Anyways, alongside a select few like Budweiser and Stella Artois. Its marketing message for Corona associating with the outdoor moments like sunsets resonates worldwide with Brazil and China. Yes, exactly. You can look forward to the sunset in China through your welded shut door, and in Brazil because nobody works over there. So whether they're waking up in the morning or they're just wasting away the day on the beach, they can go ahead and enjoy it with a Corona. They all have their own swills that are down there. But yeah, man, they're setting up. They are setting up to just leave the United States. Yeah, it's so great. We got other emerging markets. It's all fantastic. Basically, some of these other places like the United States, they're on autopilot. Don't worry about all that shit. We're set up for the future, guys. Don't mind the tanking stock prices. Hell, we'll just pay off enough analysts to say that it's going to be a really good bet, and we aren't definitely setting up strategies in order to milk the emerging third world economies. Fantastic stuff, you scumbags. Never take accountability for the big L that you took in 2023. Just look forward to the future and see how many more other places that you can go out and infiltrate with your shitty messaging. But I'm sure you won't do that over there because the woke West is where you can go and test all of these failed propagandistic talking points. So with all that said, thank you all very much for the gift of your time. I've been Don Consuelo. I want you to follow your gut and get after it. Take care, everyone.